Sponsored by Paradigm Lost. Affordable gaming accessories with a twist.
The legend tells of 3 mystic crystals fated with lack of knowledge. Only the 3 mages, Professor Dex from Phoenix, D20 from Cleveland, and Lore from the Forgotten Realms, have the knowledge to replenish these crystals. This is the DM Toolbox, Tales from the Edge. Hello to all of our character sheets and welcome back to DM Toolbox, Tales from the Edge. We are your hosts at the current moment and, probably forever. D20, Professor Dex, and Lore. How are those realms doing, Lore?
Who knows?
You gotta forget about them.
I forgot.
Dang.
So what's on the schedule for us today?
Well, I think it's important to talk about your session 0. Which is, this is a huge topic. There's a lot to unpack here.
So that's probably going to be a couple episodes.
We'll find out, won't we?
Well, it's definitely going to be a couple episodes.
That's the hook for them to come back.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Part 1, part 2. It takes 4 hours to run. You can't take between 2 and 4 hours to run a session 0 and then still not have everything done. So, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to imply the fact that a session 0 isn't something to just rush through. Take your time with it because there is a lot for the players to get out of it. And there's a lot for the DMs to get out of it.
Yeah, and whether you have new players or veteran players, you have to realize that if you're a new GM, you are kind of bringing them into a brand new world. Your world.
Yeah.
And they need to know the rules of your world. So let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
When you sit down with a bunch of potential strangers or your best friends or your brothers and your family, whoever it is, what do you think is most important when setting boundaries? Boundaries being limits on behavior. Sort of a social contract, if you will, that everyone kind of agrees to. What are the things that you feel are most important to prevent issues?
The very first question I ask is, what's everyone's hard stop? I've gotten spiders. I've gotten rape. I've gotten graphic love scenes. I even got, animal and child abuse. So, knowing people's hard stop, like mine is slavery. Knowing everyone's hard stop is like, okay, that is the limit. And I know not to go there. You know what I'm saying? And if you do have something like that pre-written to soften up some or take it out altogether. You know what I'm saying? For example, with me and spiders, I'm arachnophobic, and we were in a forest, and we had the map online and everything, and there was this giant spider. I was like, "Can you make it smaller?"
Just don't smack your screen, right?
Right. Right. It's creepy. The small ones are cool, but that one was ginormous. I'm like, can you shrink it up a little bit? He laughed and he was like, no problem. But that was an easy fix. But for example, there's what was the name of that campaign?
The one I was running?
Yeah.
Out of the Abyss.
Out of the Abyss. It has to do with the characters being enslaved by drow. I don't do slavery, so I had to drop out of the campaign because I'm not going to have fun being a slave. As you guys do not know, I'm African American. So that's part of real life culture for African Americans, and I don't want to pretend to be one in a fantasy game. So that's one of my hard stops. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely, that's entirely fair, and brings up another point. We have to respect people as DMs, as GMs. We have to respect people's limits. People have experiences from ranging from great to not so great, and that's some of us have a privilege of having a lot of great experiences in life that we can bring to the table as players, as DMs, as GMs. But unfortunately, we don't always have those same experiences, and some people, we have to kind of respect those limits. And that's why I have veils. I like to do what Pathfinder 2 kind of does, and that's, all right, what's your hard limit? And also, if we're getting too close to that limit, throw me something that lets me know that it's not okay. Kind of like the hand at the neck, cutting the neck, or the X, anything that works for you can work in this situation. We can go over hand signals later, but this kind of allows people to not have to admit to the things that triggers them. Sometimes with sexual situations, people who have been raped get triggered even by that word. They can be triggered by situations that remind them of that situation. And so we need to respect that and kind of allow our players to communicate with us in any way they need to, they feel comfortable, even if that's just texting you. Yeah. Like, hey, this isn't cool. Can we walk away from this for a second? And so what a veil is okay, the thing happens, but we're not going to talk about it.
Right.
All right. And we're not ever going to bring it up ever again. The mistake was made. It happened. Or it was retconned because somebody really didn't appreciate it. So it got retconned, and that veil sort of fills in the gap of your continuity.
Right. So like what he's referring to is the bard and the barmaid go upstairs for an hour. That's all the information you're gonna get.
Yep.
We don't need to know what the sheets look like. It's just they went upstairs for an hour and they come down really happy. That's all you need to know.
I like to call it like the cartoon effect sometimes. You're watching a cartoon and it's like, this is for kids, but then when you watch it as an adult, you're like, whoa! They implied some heavy stuff there. Whoa! And so that's what you want to be able to do. Especially in family settings or public settings where you don't want to get super raunchy or gory or stuff like that in public. People are crazy. They're going to think the hobby is crazy.
Why is that an issue for you? Because you're already crazy.
I'm the good kind of crazy.
Is there a good
Most
kind
of the time.
I guess I'm the bad kind of crazy.
But, I mean, so we're talking about respecting players, but the other thing is you also have to command respect from your players. And I know that you, D20, have a set of rules that you always say at the beginning of each campaign that you run.
Yes, I do.
What are those rules?
I say, hello, welcome to my table. I got 5 rules at my table. Rule 1, don't be a dick. Rule 2, don't be a dick. Rule 3, don't be a dick.
There you have it.
And it's just like, I say it in a humorous way, but I'm being serious. You know what I'm saying? Because there's something that you gotta do. It's called reading the room. If I have 5 12-year-olds, I'm gonna say don't be mean. If I have, 6 30-year-olds, I'm gonna say don't be a dick. You have to read the room. And the room also needs as well as the DM.
Oh yeah.
I've had many a players try to crack jokes, try to be funny, try to be silly in their head. But the DM myself and the 4 or 5 players at the table will seriously, dude.
Yep.
And yeah. That actually brings up something that's I think is important here because
that guy.
Yeah. No, well, being that guy, but as the GM, I think it's important to match your players with the game.
Okay.
For instance, you're not a BattleTech guy.
True. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, okay, some games don't fit with certain people. And so when you have your session 0, hopefully you've already established that, but you may not have. You may get there and everyone, you want to play D&D, and you get there and 3 of your players kind of want to play like a steampunk game.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I can almost make that work with D&D, but then, somebody wants to play, someone hears that and like, well, I want to play a sci-fi game. Well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and suddenly you're just inundated with, you have 6 new rule books you need to pick up and learn as the GM, and you GM, and that might be okay, but it's going to be overwhelming for you and your players. So, First things first is to make sure that everybody wants to play the game.
But going off of what Laura said, it's like, you're the DM. This is what I'm presenting to you. Yeah. I have a high fantasy game. Oh, well, I want to play a Western. Well, Mick McDonald's over there is playing a Western. Well, you could go over to his table.
There is definitely a fine line between playing your game and catering to every player. Because you're not going to be able to. Yeah. You're just not going to be able to. You're not going to have the time or the attention span. Humans just don't have that.
Well, plus when you start catering to specific players, then the other ones feel left out, and it just turns into a giant snowball effect, and it just gets out of control real fast.
It creates problems. So I think another important thing we should really talk about is also acknowledging problems. Yeah. What could potentially happen at the table that's going to be an issue, and then sort of trying to create solutions to those problems before they happen. Prevention, right? And then also, what if they do happen anyway? What are reasonable kind of consequences? You need to establish that, because otherwise people get, for lack of a better term, they get butthurt about it.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, consequences don't have to be leave my table every single time. It could be something as simple as, all right, for the rest of the game, you have a -2 to your dex.
I had 2 players that just could not stand each other. Player A came to me in confidence. I spoke to her. I spoke to player B in confidence. Player B changed their ways. Player A didn't think I spoke to player B. So it was ongoing irritation to the point where I folded the campaign and asked the remaining 4 players to stay and continue without the other 2, because it was too much work. It was too much work. And like when you started off saying, it's like, well, what are some things that can happen at your table? Everything.
Oh, yes.
Everything can happen at your table. You know what I'm saying? I had a player who was playing a bard. And we were playing online. And to be funny, he had a kazoo. So every time he would talk, he'd go on his kazoo.
Yeah.
Totally triggered someone. They logged off and didn't log on for the rest of the game. Another campaign had a super pacifist. You know what I'm saying? We went into a dwarven cave that was overrun by kobolds. Defeated the kobolds, liberated the cave. She says, "You guys just committed genocide." Logged off. Never heard from her again. You know what I'm saying? Everything and anything could be an issue.
Absolutely. And the thing is I'm going to tell you that players in general are unpredictable. Mm-hmm. They will not follow your plan. In fact, a lot of the times they will try to troll your plan, but that's its own issue.
That's its own episode.
But there are a few things that can happen at your table. So one of my rules is no PvP.
Which stands for
player versus player.
No unwarranted PvP, but if your character pisses off the rest of the group, I'm just gonna let whatever happens, and it's your fault.
I mean, yeah, to a degree, but when players do want to kind of test their skills against each other, I usually provide them a scenario where they can fight each other to 1 HP and the rest of it's non-lethal damage.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
I will not let players kill each other unless you're being a dick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why if your character pisses off the rest of the group and they're going to kill you, it's going to happen. Because sometimes it's the only way that that player will learn the lesson that being a dick is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, that is an issue, a common issue that I find. What other common issues do you guys find at the table?
Cheating.
Oh, we actually have a whole episode about that, but expand a little bit on that. What is cheating?
Having an unfair advantage in the game.
Well,
as a DM, DMs have the liberty to cheat. That's why you have a DM screen. And normally you cheat in favor of the players.
Yeah.
I've had players who cheat where they're like, oh, well, I'm going to pre-roll all my attacks.
Can I modify that statement?
What?
I think it's better to cheat in favor of the story. Sometimes, no, because you're right. Because sometimes with the players, it's great because Steve has had a really hard day. He's had a hard week. He just lost his wife. Maybe you don't want to kill his character tonight. Okay, you don't want to call Steve and he doesn't answer the phone, and so.
You got dark.
Let's see, that's where I'm going to talk about reading the room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, let's not, do the beholder tonight because there might be a TPK, which stands for total party kill. So let's go fight some bunnies.
Yeah. So, but a lot of the time I try to favor the story.
Yeah. I've also had players who like to pre-roll their attacks and stuff. It's like, well, I rolled a 20 to hit. I'm like, did I ask you to roll?
Yeah.
No. Cool. You're going to wait until I ask you to roll, then you're going to roll. That's one of my...
I'll admit, I've been guilty of that at your table, so I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is, I trust you to do it. I've had people who I don't trust do it all the time. You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Ever. And then I make them roll in the middle of the table because I get annoyed with them.
Yeah, you don't roll at 7:15 and then say, I rolled a 20 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Can it apply now?
However, at the same time, I know everybody in this room has done all right, what did you get? I got a 2. Nice. Your 19 successfully hits.
Yeah. I do that a lot.
I did 7 damage. 9 damage? 7 damage.
I am very guilty of that. I am very guilty of that. It was just I did 2 damage. 9? All right, you knocked it out.
Let's get this battle over with.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But one of my biggest things about cheating, I actually had a player sitting next to me with their computer open at the table, reading the book that I was running from, and knowing secrets in the book. Because there's a specific part where there's a carriage, and if you open up the carriage the wrong way, it explodes. They're like, I'm going to go into the carriage and look for a thing. I'm like, okay, how do you know that? And when they walked away from the table, their screen was still up with the exact page of the book that I was reading.
I know what you're talking about, that tower.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So I would like to add something to this very, very exact scenario. When I first started, and I started playing Pathfinder, okay, I thought I was being intuitive by getting myself a monster manual and be like, okay, we're going to fight a harpy. This is the strengths and weaknesses of a harpy. Not knowing that was frowned upon. I didn't get caught by doing it. But I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. Let's put the bestiary down.
Yep. I've had someone pull out the monster manual at my table and go, dudes don't know how this monster's run. And it's like, cool.
Yeah.
You can leave my table.
Well, and actually, those are a bunch of rules that we just went over that I just want to call out. So first of all, electronics at the table. That is something you need to establish. If you're going to allow it, if you're not going to allow it.
I don't like electronics at the table. I have a character sheet on my phone, but most of the time I'll look at it and I put my phone down.
Yeah.
And that's it. I've had people sit at my table and like, I'm going to play games on my phone the entire time for 4 hours.
That
and then,
irritates me so much. If you want to make me mad and not do anything with your character, play a game.
Yeah.
If I'm going to put in the same amount of energy as you are.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry. That is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of electronics at the table unless I know you're going to be responsible.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of DM rules come from pet peeves of the DM. It's like, cool, all these things that have happened at my table before aren't going to happen again. And if you do them, there will be consequences.
Yeah.
My favorite consequence is, I need you to go ahead and roll 4d6. Okay, now drop the lowest. Okay, do it again. And I've had a couple of players go, okay, why am I doing this? I'm like, well, you're rolling a new character.
Like going off what Laura's saying, like my biggest pet peeve, and like you're saying, now that you have pet peeves, you don't allow it at your table. Custom magic items. I had this guy who had this bow and arrow that when he cast it, it shot off into 3 different directions, doing a minimum of 30-point magic damage. That's just the low. That's not even that's like the plus or whatever. So it just, and it's just like, where did you get this from? Oh, it's custom made. No custom made items at my table.
The only person who gets to make custom items is the DM.
Yep.
And you get to give them to your players if you trust them with a custom item.
Yes.
Players have no agency
Well,
over that.
honestly, that was really definitely a problem that was based off of public games.
Yeah.
Because this particular person went to each GM and said, oh, well, I'm an artificer, so I want to build this.
No, they weren't. They were a druid.
Yeah, I know.
They were a freaking druid. They weren't an artificer. You know what? When that came out, artificers weren't even a class yet.
So, I saw him. He went to each DM and asked if he could build an item.
Yeah, or
but every time it was a different ability. Because when he came to me, he's like, "Well, could I fire 3 arrows from a bow?" And I'm like, "It would be at a penalty, I'm sure."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh well, can I have this person?" Eventually, when artificers are things like, "Can I have them make it for me?" I'm like, "You need to pay them."
Yeah.
Do you have like
$1 zillion?
Yeah.
Well, and apparently they did because people were giving out gold like it was fucking sand. Like,
yeah.
And so, we had that issue. And then when I heard what actually had been built and given to him, I was like, what is this construct? Nobody would approve this.
No.
And then he's like, oh, well, everybody approved it. And I'm like,
we approved one part of it.
Yeah.
You went around and
fucking
went behind
chimera
our backs.
them.
Yeah.
Like true story. So, as you can tell, the 3 of us used to DM at the same spot. And we would have a powwow afterwards. I come out, I'm just grumpy. I'm just mad. And they're like, what happened at your table? I'm just like, man, this dude had this Legolas arrow with 3.
And now you know why when you first met me, I was grumpy.
Yes!
Yeah. Even me, I was like...
like he walks to the store the first time. He goes, "It's like, oh yeah, go talk to Laura. He's the one that's in charge of everything." He's like, "I don't want to."
His eyes are angry.
Any question I got asked was like, "No,
Just no.
just
no.
tell him no."
Just tell him no.
Like it's like I know exactly who you're talking about. No, just no. And I was like, okay, sorry.
Oh man, what adventures we had there.
No, man.
When I first got there, Laura's just like, please help me, please help. And I was like, okay.
And then
What have I done?
Yes, you chose poorly.
Yeah, well, I created a monster. Anyway.
No, the monster created itself.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That's another podcast.
Back to session 0 shit.
Yes, back to session 0 shit.
Right. So we actually did go over some consequences a little bit, but let's talk about soft consequences.
Rocks fall, everyone dies.
That's actually a classic. He's actually making a joke. This is the rocks fall, everyone dies is
it's
a
not
classic.
I've done it before.
I know, but it's kind of a stereotype within DMing that if the players piss you off enough, rocks fall and everyone dies. Doesn't matter if they're out in a field, rocks fall and everyone dies.
But we're under the night sky. I don't fucking care.
Like
rocks fall, you're dead.
They were carried by swallows.
Cloud giants.
Oh yeah. I usually do swallows.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. European, but
I've also had Rocks, the giant bird, come and pick them up and fucking yeet them off a cliff.
Yep.
So that's always fun.
I've been at a table where someone said, "F the gods," and he was referring to the DM, and the DM just struck him with lightning.
Yeah.
I've had times when people at my table have been like, "Oh well, I'm playing this character, and I'm like, whenever they're a character, they have a specific way that they're talking, and I describe the room that they're in, and like, yeah, there's open barrels of beer," and she goes, in the character's voice, "Beer!" I'm like, cool, roll initiative.
Yep.
Because you just woke up everyone else that was in that cave.
Yep.
Congratulations.
I was there for that.
No, you weren't. Maybe.
Yes, I was.
Yes, you were. Okay.
Yes, I was, because I know who you're talking about, and I was the one who I was a sword dancer, and I actually succeeded on my stealth roll.
Yep.
Like for once in my miserable life.
No, you weren't there. You never met Dave. Her character.
All I know is that same scenario must have happened then, because I
I've done
remember
it.
being surrounded and going,
well,
there goes my sneak attack, and
Yep.
you're like, you get it anyway.
Yeah.
You felt bad for me. Because I failed
But-
every other stealth roll in the game.
But that's a consequence you get when your players
Are dumb.
are dumb.
One big consequence I have is the biggest pet peeve is NPC abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
When they just cuss out an NPC or, physically harm an NPC. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, there's a scenario. So the story was their maidens being kidnapped from a village. And so he goes to the guards like, y'all was doing y'all jobs, the girls wouldn't be missing. So the party goes to the bar, having stuff for dinner. There's 8 guards waiting for him. And it's like, can we help you? Yeah, we want him. We have no problems with you. We want him. Or I will just imprison them. And then when they, and you guys are going to learn a secret about my campaigns today. When you fight NPCs, their stats are gladiators. So, try them.
We fought that NPC in your game.
No, not an NPC. I'm talking like a store.
Okay,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm talking like the barmaid. I'm talking about the magic shop owner. I'm talking about the weaver.
Yeah, they're just a commoner or whatever. It's like,
yeah,
cute.
They're all gladiators.
I mean, I am a little bit more of and I just consider myself as more of a Fey GM. I won't kill your character. I will make you wish I had.
Okay.
Is that what you did to Saul Cloakman?
No, it's if you irritate me, you don't know when, you don't know where, but it'll happen. It will happen. And you'll be very sad. But most of the time I will do it in the story. It really depends on what you do, and that's when the game begins. I use the context of what you do, and I try to teach you a lesson. I had a player who was very racist,
Mm-hmm.
and he was playing a anthropomorphic animal character, and I decided that since no other player was doing that, I decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. Like, all right, you're going to go down to a planet, and everyone's sort of racist against anthropomorphic animal humans. They think that they're de-evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't allowed to participate in a lot of what the players were doing. And it was actually kind of a player's day off, which is another thing we can talk about, where basically the players are just having fun.
Yeah.
They're not like trudging through a dungeon. And he learned a really hard lesson about it, and then I never had him at my table again.
He quit on you?
No. I asked him not to be at my table because he was racist.
Okay.
But I wanted to teach him a lesson first.
Yeah, I got you. So, like, we're laughing and joking and having fun about this, but this is a very serious topic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you have issues at your table, and we don't mean, oh, I wanted you to go up and you went left. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we're talking about. For example, I had this one whole big fight scene set up, like this whole citadel, and they plan to go around it through the forest. I'm just like, okay, that's intuitive. I'm not mad. So I was like, oh man, I had this all planned out. They're like, okay, we'll go to the citadel. I was like, no. Don't change your plans because of my expression. That's my fault as a DM for cracking my facade. You know what I'm saying? So let me take 5-minute break so I can decide what's in the forest, which didn't exist.
Oh, there's
you know what I'm saying?
Citadel in the forest. I don't know where that came from.
But what we're talking about is just like a disruption. One thing that I learned is having a sand timer. Your characters like to talk, they like to bullshit, they like to tell jokes all the time. Put a sand timer on that table. They're gonna look at that and be like, what does that mean? What's going on there? And when that sand timer runs out, okay, everyone just got hit by a sniper that was in the trees.
Yep.
So like, I'll air quotes punish my players like that. Or I had one, they were clerics, and they devoted themselves to a god. And they're like, F her, you know what I'm saying? They threw down their cloaks and everything. They heard a voice in their head. They said, are you really doing this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So for the rest of the game, whenever